Alright, hey guys, this is a continuation of the Pascal's triangle and binomial theorem video from before. This time we're going to focus a little more purely on just solving problems. So let's start. So let's say we're trying to expand 2x plus 1 to the 6th power. So there are a few ways to do this. So we know that by the binomial theorem this is, and choose 6 choose 0. The binomial coefficient here times 2x all to the 6th power, 1 to the 0th power, plus 6 choose 1, 2x to the 5th power, 1 to the 1st power, and so on, up to 6 choose 6, 2x to the 0 power, 1 to the 6th power. Okay, but how do we get these coefficients? Well, one way to do this is recursively with Pascal's triangle. So let's say we start with row 0, optional row 0, and this is truly row 1. Row 1 has the 2 ones in it. Then row 2 has that 2 in there. Remember, in Pascal's triangle, it's constructed in such a way such that the bottom number is the sum of the numbers on the top, and there's always ones on the sides. So we build our triangles so far. Remember to put a 1 on the sides of row 3, row 4, row 5, and row 6, finally. Alright, so these 7 numbers are the ones that we want in our expansion. So I plug them in. So 1 times 2x to the 6th, if we raise the whole thing, that's 64. So, and 6 choose 0 is 1. That's 6 choose 0, 6 choose 1, that's 6 choose 2, so on, until that's 6 choose 6. 6 choose 0 is 1, 2x to the 6th power is 64x to the 6th power, 1 to the 0 is 1, so we have the first term here, 64x to the 6th. Now for our second term, 6 choose 1 here is 6, and then 2x to the 5th power, the whole thing, that's 32x to the 5th. So 32 times 6 is 192. And 1 to the anything is always 1. Let's go to 6 choose 2 now. So the binomial coefficient here is 15. 2x to the 4th power. 15 times 16 is 240. And again, we're going to continue here. 6 choose 3 is 20. That's our next binomial coefficient. And 2x all cubed is going to be 8 to 20 times 8, that's 160. And the next binomial coefficient, 6 choose 4 is 15, 2x squared, that's 4x squared, so 15 times 4 is 60. And we're almost done here. 5, 6 choose 5, that's our next binomial coefficient, that's 6. And we're going to multiply it by 2x to the first power, which is just 2x. So 6 times 2 is 12, and then 6 choose 6 is 1, 2x to the 0 is 1, 1 to the 6th is 1, so our entire thing is just 1 here. And there is our answer. However, if you don't want to compute all previous rows of Pascal's triangle just to get the coefficients for this expansion, no need to worry. So let's look at the explicit formula. So let's say, remember, we're trying to confirm 6 choose 2. Let's try to confirm that. So by our previous video, we can see that the calculation is 6 times 5, where there's 2 terms on the top because you're choosing 2. 6 times 5 over 2 times 1. That's 15. Also, the other definition, 6 factorial over 2 factorial times 6 minus 2 factorial. That's 4 right there. That's 720 over 2 factorial is 2. 4 factorial is 24. If you plug that into a calculator, you should also get 15. So if you want an explicit formula to calculate the binomial coefficients, then you can then you don't have to compute all of the previous numbers to figure out these ones. And then our 15 goes up there as before. Remember, 15 times 2x all raised to the 4th power. That's 16 times x raised to the 4th power, because 2 to the 4th is 16. 15 times 16 is 240. That's why I have our coefficient here. Now, let's practice with another example. So let's say we have x squared minus 3y, all raised to the 4th power. So let's write out our entire formula. I'm not going to skip anything this time. We start with 4 choose 0, and then x squared to the 4th power. In fact, in order to not mess up, we should change this to x squared plus negative 3y, all raised to the 4th power. Then we could use our formula a lot easier without messing up that much. 3y to the 0 again. We're matching the powers. Plus 4 choose 1, x squared all to the 3rd power, negative 3y all to the 1st power, plus 4 choose 2, x squared to the 2nd power, negative 3y all to the 2nd power, plus 4 choose 3, x squared all to the 1st power, negative 3y all to the 3rd power, and finally our last term, plus 4 choose 4, x squared all to the 0 power, negative 3y to the 4th, all to the 4th power. So there is all our entire expression. And last time, since we used the recursive formula to build up these coefficients from previous values, this time we're going to practice using the explicit formula to figure out these values directly by calculations. So let's break it down each term by term. So 4 choose 0. Anything choose 0 is 1, but if you want to look at it more, you know what? Anything choose 0 is 1, because that represents you're picking nothing out of a set, and there's only one way to do that, which is do nothing. So 1 times x squared to the 4th. Now, if we have a power raised to another power, we use laws of exponents. That is changed to x to the 2 times 4. If you have this order of exponents, you multiply the exponents to get x to the 8. Negative 3y to the 0 is just anything to the 0 is 1. So our first term is simply just x to the 8th. Now let's look at our second term. 4 choose 1 is 4. X squared cubed by laws of exponents, that's x to the 6th, and negative 3y to the 1st is just negative 3y. So 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. So let's change that to a minus sign, and now there's also a y there. Let's look at our second term. So 4 choose 2, let's practice using the explicit formula. 4 times 3 over 2 times 1, we're just multiplying two numbers on both the top and the bottom, and that evaluates to 6. And x squared is x to the 4th, negative 3y, the whole thing squared, and that would actually be positive 9y squared, because a negative times a negative is positive. So the y squared here, we're going to absorb this into the coefficient. 6 times positive 9 is positive 54. Let's look at the next term again. Let's use the explicit formula. 4 times 3 times 2 over 3 times 2 times 1. that just gives 4. So let's put a 4 here, and x squared to the first is x squared. Negative 3y, the whole thing cubed is going to be negative 3 cubed is negative 27, y cubed is just y cubed. So let's absorb that into the coefficient again. 4 times negative 27 is negative 108. And now finally, 4 choose 4, anything choose anything, it is also just 1, because that's just saying how many ways can you choose everything from a set, and there's only one way of doing that, obviously. So 4 choose 4 is 1, x squared to the 0 is 1, and negative 3 y to the 4th, negative 3 all to the 4th power, that's positive 81, because anything a negative to an even power, negative 3 to the 4th is negative 3 times itself 4 times, which is going to be positive 81. And then y to the 4th is just y to the 4th. And there is our final expansion of x squared minus 3y all to the 4th power. Notice these very important negative signs. So to not mess up, I would suggest using this method, changing the subtraction into the addition of a negative number, and then that should prevent you from making some sign errors when you're doing this. So hopefully this was some good practice for using Pascal's triangle and expanding out a binomial, and hope you guys like this, understood, and if you need any more help, tell me and I would be glad to make even more videos. See ya.